I never thought I'd live to see the day when my own children would be treated like outsiders, like strangers in a family they were born into, while my brother's kids were showered with love, attention, and gifts at every single gathering. It still stings to even say it out loud, but that's the truth. My name is Isabella, and I grew up believing that family was supposed to be the place where you found unconditional love, where you didn't have to prove yourself, where kids were adored simply for being kids. But as I watched my own children get sidelined again and again, while my brother's kids were treated like royalty, I realized my definition of family didn't match the one my parents and relatives seemed to live by. The very first time I noticed it, I brushed it off. Maybe it was just my imagination. Maybe I was being oversensitive. My twins, Emma and Noah, were only 4 at the time, and we were at my parents' house for Thanksgiving. Everyone was gathered in the living room, the smell of roasted turkey filling the air, laughter bouncing off the walls. And then, my brother, Daniel, walked in with his wife and their 2 kids, Sophie and Liam. My parents practically jumped out of their seats. My mom clapped her hands together, squealing like a little girl, and my dad rushed over to scoop Sophie into his arms. "Oh my goodness, look at our little princess," Mom gushed, pressing kisses all over Sophie's face. She was only 2 years younger than Emma, but you'd think Sophie was the only grandchild in the room. Liam, who was barely walking, got the same treatment. My dad carried him around like a trophy, parading him in front of the relatives. "This boy is going places," he declared proudly. "And my kids?" Emma and Noah were sitting quietly on the couch, watching all of this unfold. No one ran to them. No one scooped them up or showered them with affection. Not even a simple, "Hi, sweethearts, we missed you." I walked over to my kids, trying to hide the ache in my chest, and hugged them tightly. "Grandma and Grandpa are just excited," I whispered. "They love you too." But even as I said it, the words felt hollow. Dinner that night was no different. Daniel's kids sat right beside my parents at the table, their plates piled high before anyone else was even served. My mom cut Sophie's food into tiny pieces, while my dad poured Liam a glass of juice. Meanwhile, Emma asked for mashed potatoes 3 times before anyone noticed her. I told myself it was just the holiday chaos. Big family gatherings are messy, right? Maybe my parents were just distracted. But then Christmas rolled around. We all gathered at my parents' house again, and I'll never forget the moment when the kids started opening presents. There were stacks, literal stacks, of boxes wrapped in shiny paper, bows glittering under the lights. Every single one had Sophie or Liam's name on it. Emma and Noah each got one gift, a sweater. I tried to smile, tried to keep the bitterness out of my voice as I said, "Wow, thank you." The sweaters are lovely, but inside, I was screaming. My kids were old enough to notice. Emma's little face crumpled as she watched Sophie unwrap dollhouses, stuffed animals, jewelry kits, even a shiny pink bike. Noah stared down at his sweater, his small hands clutching it tightly, like he was trying to convince himself it was enough. That night, when I tucked them into bed, Emma whispered, "Mom, why does Grandma like Sophie more than me?" My heart shattered. What do you even say to that? How do you explain to your child that the very people who should love them unconditionally have decided they don't measure up? I hugged her close and said, "It's not about who they like more. You are perfect, just the way you are. Don't ever forget that." But deep down, I knew she saw the truth. Over the next few years, the favoritism only grew clearer. Birthdays, Easter, random Sunday visits. It was always the same. Sophie and Liam were showered with attention, praise, and gifts, while my kids were treated like afterthoughts. When Sophie got a part in her school play, my parents invited the whole extended family to come watch. They brought flowers, took videos, bragged about her talent to everyone they knew. When Emma got a part in her school play, not a single person showed up. I sat in that auditorium alone, clapping louder than anyone else, fighting back tears as I watched her scan the crowd, her smile faltering when she realized no one else had come. Noah wasn't spared either. When Liam joined a soccer team, my parents bought him cleats, a uniform, and even a sports bag with his name embroidered on it. They attended every single game, cheering from the sidelines like he was the next David Beckham. Noah loved soccer too, but when he joined a team, my parents didn't even acknowledge it. I scraped together the money to buy his gear, sat in the stands by myself, and watched as my little boy searched the crowd for grandparents who never came. By then, it wasn't just about favoritism anymore. It felt like exclusion, like my kids were invisible in their own family. The breaking point came during Daniel's anniversary party. My parents rented out a hall, catered a 5-course meal, invited over 100 people. It was extravagant, over the top, everything Daniel wanted. When I arrived with Emma and Noah, I could feel the stares. My mom walked right past my kids without so much as a hello. But when Sophie and Liam entered, the room practically erupted in applause. Then came the announcement that made my blood run cold. "From now on," my mom said proudly into the microphone, "we've decided that Sophie and Liam will be the faces of our family. They'll be included in every event, every holiday tradition, every photo album. We want them to carry on our name and legacy." My hands froze around my glass. The faces of our family. What about Emma and Noah? As if reading my mind, my dad chuckled into the microphone. Of course, not every child can be part of the spotlight. Some kids just don't fit the image. The room laughed, while my children sat there, wide-eyed and confused, not understanding why their grandparents had just erased them with a single sentence. That was the night I realized this wasn't just favoritism. This was a ban. My children, my beautiful, innocent children, had been banned from their own family's love, while my brother's kids got everything. And that's when I made a decision that would change everything. The morning after that anniversary party, I woke up with a knot in my stomach. Emma and Noah had stayed up late, tossing and turning, their little faces etched with questions I couldn't answer. "Mom," Emma asked as she stirred her cereal, "what did Grandpa mean when he said Sophie and Liam are the faces of the family?" "Does that mean we're not?" I nearly dropped the milk carton. My throat tightened. Noah's big brown eyes followed me, waiting for an explanation. But what could I possibly say? That yes, their grandparents had decided they weren't good enough? That in their eyes they didn't count? Instead, I forced a smile and brushed a hand over Emma's hair. "Sweetheart, sometimes adults say silly things that don't mean anything. You are every bit a part of this family. Don't you ever doubt that." But deep inside, I knew those words from my parents weren't silly. They were deliberate. And the more I thought about it, the angrier I became. I tried calling my mom that week. "Mom, what you said at the party. Do you have any idea how hurtful that was? Emma and Noah are just kids. They didn't deserve to be erased like that." Her voice was cold. "Isabella, don't be dramatic. You know we love all our grandchildren. But Daniel's kids, well, they have the right look, the right personality. They'll carry our name forward in the way we want. It's just reality. I felt like I'd been slapped." "The right look?" "They're children, Mom. They're your grandchildren. Do you even hear yourself?" She sighed, clearly done with the conversation. "Don't twist my words. We're just practical. Sophie and Liam are special. You should be happy for them instead of sulking about what your kids don't have. Sulking. That's what she called it. After that phone call, something inside me cracked. It wasn't just that my parents were favoring Daniel's kids. It was that they had decided Emma and Noah were less than, that they didn't measure up, and they weren't even ashamed to say it out loud. But the worst part? Daniel was no better. One Saturday, he invited us over for what he called a casual family barbecue. I debated not going, but Emma begged. "Maybe this time Grandpa will play with me," she said hopefully. How could I deny her that chance? So we went. From the moment we arrived, the atmosphere was suffocating. Sophie and Liam were running around in brand new clothes, their bikes parked out front. My parents were seated in lawn chairs, laughing and clapping as the kids showed off tricks. Emma tugged on my sleeve. "Can I show Grandma my drawing?" She had worked on it all morning, a colorful picture of our whole family standing together. My heart swelled at her excitement. She ran up to my mom, holding out the paper with both hands. "Grandma, look!" I drew us all together. My mom barely glanced at it. "That's nice, dear." "Now, Sophie, show me your cartwheel." Emma's shoulders drooped. She walked back to me, clutching the paper to her chest, tears threatening to spill. I pulled her into my lap, fury burning behind my eyes. As if that wasn't enough, later that afternoon, Daniel made an announcement. "Mom and Dad are taking Sophie and Liam to Disneyland this summer." The yard erupted in cheers. My parents grinned proudly, already talking about the rides, the hotel, the souvenirs. Emma whispered, "Mom, can we go too?" I froze. I hadn't been told about any Disneyland trip. Neither had my kids. So I asked, my voice tight, "Are you planning on inviting Emma and Noah?" My dad looked genuinely surprised, like the thought hadn't even crossed his mind. "Oh, well, we figured you couldn't afford it. And besides, it would be hard to handle 4 kids. 2 is manageable." My stomach dropped. Manageable. My kids were their grandchildren, not luggage. Emma buried her face in my shoulder, whispering, "I knew it. They don't want us." That was the moment the anger in me solidified into something else. Determination. I couldn't keep exposing my children to this kind of cruelty. They were too young to fully understand, but old enough to feel the sting of rejection. And every time it happened, it carved another wound into their hearts. I started pulling back from family gatherings. At first, my parents called, demanding to know why I wasn't bringing the kids around. "Because every time I do, you ignore them," I shot back. "I won't let you break their hearts anymore." My mom scoffed. "You're being ridiculous. You can't shield them from everything." "No," I said firmly, "but I can shield them from you." Daniel, of course, had his own opinion. He called me one night, furious. "Why are you trying to turn Mom and Dad against us? Just because your kids don't get as much attention doesn't mean they're banned. Stop making it about you." I nearly dropped the phone. "Making it about me? Daniel, this isn't about me. This is about Emma and Noah crying themselves to sleep because they don't understand why their grandparents won't look at them. This is about my children being treated like they don't belong. How dare you minimize that?" But he just laughed. "You've always been jealous. Admit it. You can't stand that my kids are the golden ones. That's what this is really about, jealous. That word haunted me for weeks. Was that how everyone saw me? Not as a mother protecting her children, but as a bitter sister envying her brother's perfect family? Number. I refused to accept that. I wasn't jealous. I was angry. Angry that my children were being punished for something they couldn't control. Angry that love, which should have been unconditional, was being handed out like a prize my kids hadn't won. The final straw came on Noah's 8th birthday. We threw a small party at home, just a few of his friends from school, some balloons, a homemade cake. He was glowing with happiness, grinning from ear to ear as he opened his gifts. But as the party wound down, he asked quietly, "Do you think Grandma and Grandpa forgot my birthday?" I swallowed hard. They hadn't forgotten. They had chosen not to come. Because the very next day, I saw photos online. My parents at a lavish party for Liam, who wasn't even celebrating his birthday yet. Just a random party thrown because he deserved it. I stared at those pictures until my vision blurred with tears. My parents had time, money, and energy for my brother's kids. But for Noah? For Emma? They had nothing. That night, after my kids were asleep, I sat at the kitchen table and made a decision. I wasn't going to beg for scraps of affection anymore. I wasn't going to keep hoping my parents would wake up and realize how unfair they were being. If they didn't want my children, then fine. But my kids would never again have to sit in a room where they were treated like they were invisible. From that moment forward, I knew the road would be lonely, but it would also be ours. And one day, my children would understand that I fought for them, even if it meant walking away from the family that was supposed to protect us. Walking away sounded simple the night I decided it, but the reality was much harder. Family ties aren't just threads you can snip cleanly. They're tangled, knotted ropes that pull at you even when you try to break free. The first Sunday, we skipped family dinner. I thought my phone would explode from all the missed calls and messages. My mom left voicemails dripping with passive aggression. "Isabella, the kids are going to think you don't care about family traditions. You're making a mistake. Bring them this Sunday, we'll talk." Daniel's messages weren't much better. "You're being dramatic. Mom and Dad love your kids. Stop acting like a victim." But I didn't answer. Instead, I sat with Emma and Noah at our own dining table, just the three of us. I cooked spaghetti, Noah's favorite, and we lit candles for fun. The kids giggled as they tried to twirl noodles on their forks. And for the first time in months, I didn't see that shadow of disappointment in their eyes. Still, the pull was there. Emma came home from school one afternoon holding a flyer. "Grandma said she's taking Sophie and Liam to the zoo this weekend. Can we go too?" My stomach twisted. My mom hadn't invited us. Of course she hadn't. But she had handed out flyers at school for the trip like it was some exclusive event. I crouched down to Emma's level. "Sweetheart, we're not going with them." "But how about we go to the aquarium instead? Just us three." Her eyes brightened. "Really? Really?" I promised, though inside I was seething. My parents weren't just ignoring my kids anymore. They were flaunting their favoritism right in front of them. The aquarium trip turned out to be magical. Emma pressed her hands to the glass, squealing at the dolphins, while Noah begged me to take 100 pictures of him with the sharks. For a few hours, the ache faded. We laughed, we bonded, and my kids glowed in the attention I poured into them. But as soon as we got home, reality came crashing back. My phone buzzed with a message from my mom. "Saw your pictures. Trying a little too hard, don't you think? Stop being petty and just join us next time." Petty. That word lit me on fire. Was it petty to take my kids to an aquarium because their grandparents excluded them from the zoo? Was it petty to try to give them memories when their own family erased them? I typed a reply, my fingers shaking. "This isn't about me, Mom. It's about Emma and Noah. They are not invisible. Stop treating them like they don't exist." The response came minutes later. "You're overreacting. Sophie and Liam are easier to be around. Your kids are shy, reserved. Not every child is cut out for the spotlight. There was that word again, as if love was a performance, and my kids hadn't earned their place on stage. I blocked her number that night, but cutting off my parents didn't stop the ripple effect. At school events, I noticed Daniel's wife, Claire, whispering to other moms. Soon enough, I was hearing things secondhand. Claire says you're jealous of Sophie and Liam. Claire says you keep your kids away because they don't fit in. The gossip spread, turning me into the bitter sister, the outcast, the problem. One day, Noah came home in tears. Liam told everyone at school that Grandma says we're not really part of the family. My chest tightened. He said, "What?" Emma chimed in, her face pale. And Sophie told my friend that Grandma said, "We're boring." I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. This wasn't just favoritism anymore. It was poison, dripping down into the next generation. My parents hadn't just erased my kids from their lives. They were teaching Daniel's kids to look down on them, too. That night, I sat Emma and Noah down. Listen to me. People are going to say cruel things, but those words don't define you. You are kind, smart, and strong. You don't need anyone's approval to know your worth. Noah sniffled. But why don't Grandma and Grandpa like us? My throat closed. This was the question I had dreaded, the one I had no good answer for. So I told them the only truth I could. Sometimes people make mistakes. Sometimes even grown-ups forget how to love the right way, but that's on them, not you. You did nothing wrong. They nodded slowly, but I could see the pain still lingering. Words only went so far. What they needed was proof. So I doubled down. I signed Emma up for art classes and enrolled Noah in soccer camp. I spent weekends helping them build projects, cheering from the sidelines, clapping until my hands hurt. If my family wouldn't celebrate them, then I would. But my decision didn't sit well with Daniel. One evening, he showed up at my doorstep, uninvited. "Isabella," he said, arms crossed, "this is ridiculous. You're punishing Mom and Dad for loving my kids." I stared at him, disbelief bubbling inside me. Loving your kids? Daniel, they don't just love your kids, they worship them. And in the process, they've trashed mine. Do you even realize the damage they've done to Emma and Noah? He rolled his eyes. Your kids are fine. They're just sensitive. You're the one feeding them these ideas. I stepped closer, my voice trembling with rage. Don't you dare put this on me. I've watched my daughter cry because no one showed up for her play. I've watched my son wonder why his birthday didn't matter. That's not sensitivity, Daniel. That's heartbreak. For the first time, his smug confidence faltered, but only for a second. He shook his head. You'll regret this. Mom and Dad won't forget how you've treated them, and when they're gone, don't expect anything. Ah, there it was, the inheritance card. That's what this was really about. I laughed bitterly. You think I care about their money? I'd rather my kids grow up with dignity than a bank account stained with neglect. Daniel left that night, slamming the door behind him. But his words echoed in my mind. When they're gone, don't expect anything. And maybe he was right. Maybe by standing up for Emma and Noah, I was cutting us off from the family forever. But as I peeked into my children's rooms that night, Emma sprawled across her bed with her sketchbook, Noah curled up with his soccer ball, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I'd rather stand alone with them than stand with a family that had already banned them. Time has a way of revealing truths that people try so hard to hide. Months passed since I had cut ties with my parents and Daniel's family. At first, it felt lonely. Family dinners, birthdays, Christmas, those things used to fill my calendar. Now, our home was quieter, just the three of us. But in that quiet, something unexpected happened. Emma and Noah bloomed. Emma, who used to shrink in the background whenever Sophie showed off her trophies, began filling our living room walls with her artwork. Bright canvases of sunsets, animals, portraits of me and Noah. I signed her up for a local art competition, just to encourage her. To our shock and my pride, She won second place. She stood on stage holding her ribbon, cheeks pink, and I swear I'd never seen her smile so wide. Noah, meanwhile, found his confidence on the soccer field. At first, he stumbled, too nervous to kick the ball. But week after week, with my constant cheering, he grew bolder. The day he scored his first goal, he ran straight to me, arms outstretched, yelling, "Did you see that, Mom?" I did it. I saw it. I saw all of it. It was proof that my kids were never lacking. They just needed space to shine. Word got around quickly. Our small town loved to talk, and soon people noticed Emma's paintings displayed at the community center and Noah's team advancing in tournaments. Teachers pulled me aside to tell me how much more confident my kids had become, but not everyone was celebrating. One afternoon, I was walking out of the grocery store when I ran into Claire, Daniel's wife. She gave me that tight-lipped smile, the kind that hides venom. "Heard Emma won some little art thing," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "That's cute." I clenched my jaw but kept calm. Yes, she's really talented. And Noah's been doing great in soccer, too. Claire scoffed. "Well, Sophie's still top of her class. And Liam just got picked for the advanced math program. Some kids are just naturally exceptional, you know?" The implication was clear. My kids' achievements were hobby level. Hers were destined for greatness. I didn't argue. I didn't need to, because deep down I knew the difference. My kids' accomplishments came from hard work and heart, not favoritism and being handed everything. Still, the tension kept building. The breaking point came at Christmas. My parents hosted their usual big holiday dinner, and for the first time, we weren't there. I thought I could ignore it. I thought I'd gotten past caring. But on Christmas morning, Daniel posted a photo on Facebook. His kids surrounded by a mountain of presents, my parents beaming in the background. The caption read, "So blessed to see Sophie and Liam showered with love. Family is everything. Family is everything." The words stabbed me like knives, because apparently my kids weren't family. I almost deleted my account right then and there, but Emma wandered into the room holding a gift she'd wrapped for me, a lopsided package covered in stickers. "Merry Christmas, Mom," she said, eyes shining. Inside was a bracelet she'd made out of beads. It spelled out "Best Mom." I hugged her so tight she squealed. And in that moment, I realized something important. Yes, my parents had rejected my kids, but we still had each other, and that was enough. Still, life has a funny way of circling back. A few months later, news began to spread that Daniel and Claire were struggling. Sophie, the golden child, had started rebelling. Teachers reported her being rude, skipping assignments, even failing a test. Liam, the math genius, was caught cheating on homework. The whispers trickled down to me through mutual acquaintances. At first, I didn't believe it. But then one day, Emma came home from school grinning. "You'll never believe what happened." Sophie got in trouble for yelling at a teacher. Everyone was talking about it. I frowned. "Emma, we don't celebrate other people's failures." "But Mom," she said, "it's just, for once, it wasn't us." Her words hit me harder than she knew. For once, it wasn't us. For once, we weren't the ones being put down. The cracks in Daniel's perfect family widened over time. Sophie's attitude only got worse, and Liam's grades kept slipping. My parents tried to cover it up, but it was clear. Their golden grandchildren weren't so golden after all. Meanwhile, Emma won first place at her next art competition. Noah's team made it to the finals, and he scored the winning goal. I cheered so loudly I nearly lost my voice. And then, the moment I'd never expected arrived. One evening, as I was cooking dinner, my phone buzzed. It was my mom. I almost ignored it. After all, I'd blocked her before. But curiosity won. Her voice was tired, strained. "Isabella?" Can we talk? I froze. Part of me wanted to hang up. Part of me wanted to scream. But I stayed quiet, letting her continue. Your father and I... We might have been too hard on Emma and Noah. We didn't mean to make them feel left out. Didn't mean to. The memory of Emma crying in her room, of Noah asking why his birthday didn't matter, flooded back. My mom sighed. We were wrong. Daniel's kids. They're struggling. And we realize now we should have treated all of you equally. Maybe it's not too late to fix things. I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. Not too late. For them, maybe. But for my kids? The damage had already been done. I drew in a deep breath and said, it's not about what you want anymore. Emma and Noah deserve better than half-hearted apologies. They deserve love that's unconditional. If you can give them that, maybe one day we'll talk. But until then, stay away. And with that, I hung up. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but also the most freeing. For once, I wasn't begging my parents to see my kids. I wasn't trying to force my children into a family that didn't want them. We had built our own family, just the three of us. And that was more than enough. Life has a strange way of circling back, forcing people to face the consequences of their choices. For years, my parents had worshipped Daniel's kids while treating mine like they were invisible. Now, the world was about to see who had really been overlooked. The big moment came when Emma's school hosted its annual spring showcase, a night where students displayed their best work, from science projects to art to performances. Emma had been chosen to feature 3 of her paintings. She worked tirelessly for weeks, her hands constantly stained with paint, her room filled with sketches and ideas. When the night finally arrived, Noah and I carried her canvases into the gymnasium. The space buzzed with parents and kids, tables lined with projects, walls covered in art. Emma set up her display nervously, brushing her hair behind her ear as she carefully placed her name tag, Emma Thompson, grade 7. I leaned down and whispered, "Whatever happens tonight, I'm proud of you. You've already won just by showing up and putting your heart into this." Her lips curved into a shy smile. "Thanks, Mom." As the evening went on, people began gathering around Emma's table. Teachers, parents, even other students stopped to admire her work. One woman asked if she sold her paintings. Emma's cheeks flushed as she stammered, "No, but maybe someday." I watched her confidence grow right in front of me. She stood taller, her voice steadier as she explained her process to curious onlookers. Noah snapped pictures on my phone, grinning the whole time. And then, as if scripted by fate, I heard a familiar voice behind me. "Isabella?" Well, isn't this a surprise? I turned and saw Claire standing there, Daniel by her side, Sophie and Liam trailing behind. My stomach clenched, but I forced a polite nod. Claire glanced at Emma's paintings with thinly veiled disdain. "So this is the famous artwork we've been hearing about." Before I could respond, a teacher approached. "Mrs. Thompson, I just wanted to tell you, Emma's work has been selected to represent our school in the regional competition next month." "It's a huge honor," Emma gasped, eyes wide. "Really?" The teacher smiled warmly. "Absolutely." "She has extraordinary talent." I hugged my daughter, tears pricking my eyes. "I knew it, sweetheart." "I knew you could do it." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Sophie and Liam watching, their expressions a mix of shock and envy. Claire's fake smile wavered, her face paling. Daniel's jaw tightened, his arms crossed. For once, the spotlight wasn't on their kids. It was on mine. But the night wasn't over yet. After the art displays, Noah's soccer team was honored for winning the district championship. The boys marched onto the stage in their uniforms, holding their trophy high as parents clapped and cheered. Noah stood proudly in the middle, grinning from ear to ear. I screamed his name from the audience, clapping until my palms stung. He spotted me and waved, his smile growing even wider. When the ceremony ended, people came up to congratulate us. Teachers praised Noah's sportsmanship. Other parents complimented Emma's art. My children were finally being seen, recognized, celebrated, and my parents weren't there to witness any of it. Later that night, as we packed up Emma's paintings, I overheard Sophie muttering to Claire, "Why does everyone care about her art?" It's not even that good, Claire hushed her, but the bitterness was clear. For years, Sophie had been the golden child, praised for every little achievement. Now, confronted with someone else's success, she couldn't handle it. That's when it hit me. My parents hadn't done Sophie and Liam any favors by spoiling them. They had set them up for failure, teaching them that love and validation would always be handed to them. But when life demanded real effort, they crumbled. Meanwhile, Emma and Noah, my band kids, had learned resilience, humility, and perseverance. They had grown strong in the shadows, and now they were shining brighter than ever. A week later, my mom called again. This time I answered. "I saw the pictures from the showcase," she said softly. "Emma looked amazing, and Noah with his trophy, we're proud of them." I swallowed hard. "Are you proud because the town is proud? Or because they're finally good enough for you?" Silence, then a sigh. "We were wrong, Isabella. We see that now. We want to be part of their lives again." Please, I closed my eyes, memories flooding back. Emma crying on her birthday, Noah asking why Grandma didn't love him, my kids sitting at that table alone while their cousins were celebrated. "I'll think about it," I said finally. "But this isn't about what you want anymore. If Emma and Noah want you in their lives, that's their choice. I won't force it either way. It was the truth. My children had been denied their voice for too long. Now they would decide who deserved to be in their lives." That night, as I tucked Emma into bed, she whispered, "Mom, do we have to see them again?" I brushed her hair back gently. "Only if you want to, sweetheart." She shook her head firmly, then no. "We're happy with just us." I kissed her forehead, my heart aching but also swelling with pride. She wasn't afraid to choose herself anymore. Neither was I. The next morning, Noah bounded into the kitchen, holding his trophy. "Mom, when I grow up, I'm going to play in the World Cup. And when I do, you'll be in the front row cheering louder than anyone." I laughed, pulling him into a hug. "You bet I will." And in that moment, I realized something. My parents had spent years convincing me that my kids were less than, that they didn't belong. But standing there, holding Noah's dream in my arms, I knew the truth. My children weren't less. They were everything. And the family that had banned them, they were the ones who had lost.